Hey everyone, good morning. Today's January 25th, day 25 of Wise Up. We only have a few more days left of this. I'm so glad that you're joining us for another daily dose of wisdom from the book of Proverbs for your daily life. There's Watson in the background over there. Hey buddy. Hey, here's our thought for the day. Our faith is defined by what we do for others. Our faith is defined by what we do for others. Let me read our verse today and we'll kind of explain how that ties in and what it means for us. We're looking at 25 verses 21 and 22. This is what it says. If your enemy is hungry, give him food to eat. If he is thirsty, give him water to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. Right? So that's what our passage says today. Talking again about enemies. It's interesting that Solomon continues to bring up enemies. But think about the day and age that he lived. It was more of a prevalent thing to have other civilizations, other armies, other groups who were against you. And in fact, enemies in that sense. We don't have so much of that anymore, on that scale. But we do have maybe personal enemies or personal people, relationships that we have that are hostile for whatever reason, right? But here's what he says. If your enemy's hungry, give him food. If your enemy is thirsty, give him water. And in doing this, it will heap burning coals on his head, and the Lord will reward you. So how do we respond to our enemies? And how do we respond to what others do to us, even if it's totally uncalled for and totally wrong? It gives us a chance to evaluate if we do something and what our motive is behind it, right? If your enemy's hungry, give him food. If he's thirsty, give him water. That kind of sounds counterintuitive, right? Because there's a part of us that wants to say, man, if I have an enemy and he's hungry, he's going to starve to death, let him starve to death, right? Sometimes our heart can feel that way. Or if he's thirsty, I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. Maybe he should have thought about XYZ before he whatever, and then I could have helped. But because he did this or she said this or he said this to whoever, we find reasons to justify treating them that way and responding to people in that way. And in doing so, this will heap burning coals on his head. It's not a literal thing, right? Just because you do something kind for an enemy, obviously they're not going to have burning coals on their head. What he's talking about is that, I saw this video and you may have seen it too, but it was a motivational speaker at an FFA convention, and he had two students up on stage, and he said, I want you to insult him and you to come back at her, and you guys get into it, right? And so she would say, like, you're stupid. And he'd be like, oh yeah, well you're this, right? And they continue and go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then he said, okay, great, we're going to do the same thing. Ma'am, I want you to say the same things you were saying to him, except your rule this time, your job is to only respond with love. And to say things like, no, I understand that you see that. I am kind of clumsy, or, whatever it may be. And see what happens. Because the demonstration goes on, and eventually this girl who's being super mean to this guy didn't really have anything mean to say, because it was as if his comeback, which wasn't really a comeback, was just kind of shutting her down. And so that's kind of this image of heaping burning coals on somebody's head, is it's going, I want to be so mean to you and this and that. And then when you respond in love, it's like, how can you be mean whenever, how can somebody be mean and hate you and this and that when all you are is nice to them? It doesn't hurt you. It just hurts them. It continues to dig them into this hole of hatred and bitterness or whatever. And then the last part of the verse says, and then the Lord will reward you. Now, why is that? Because as he is making us more like him, right? It's his desire for us to be more like him. And so when we respond in love, we're responding how Jesus responds. We're learning to be more like him. And so we begin to know him and grow closer and be more like him. That, if nothing else, is an incredible reward. to know that in doing so, we're able to share his love with people. So here's the deal. When we respond to enemies or haters or whatever they may be, the mean girl at school or the mean group of girls at school or those guys that are just jerks and they're out to get you, whatever it may be, here's this, right? It isn't up to us to decide what other people do. It isn't up to us. But what is up to us is how we are going to respond to them. And that's the same with everything in life. Like, it isn't up to us when we share God's love with people and we share the gospel. It isn't up to me to make them be saved or make them believe it or make them have faith, right? That's not up to me. But it's up to me to be faithful in sharing that, to present the truth and to present Jesus' love. Our faith is defined by what we do for other people, especially our enemies. Jesus tells us that the greatest among us will be a servant. And so when we are sharing the same faith that Jesus had, right? Jesus had the same faith when he came to earth as a man, and he was God, but he didn't consider that. He didn't consider equality with God to be grasped, but instead, what did he do? He made himself nothing, and he learned to love and serve other people. When was the last time that when was the last time that we sat and thought about what we do for other people? And it's easy for us to justify and be like, no, I do a lot of things for other people. Like, I'm a pretty good dude, right? Or I'm a pretty good girl, I do a lot. But do we have a heart that says, I will love even my enemies, even the people who don't believe in me, the people who think that I'm worthless or think I can't do it or push me around and talk behind my back? Do we have a heart that says, that's not my problem. I need to show them love. I need to treat them the same way that Jesus would treat them. That's our goal. So today, let's pray together that we will receive God's wisdom and that we will be people who have faith, who grow in our faith, and have the courage to act on our faith even to those who are against us and who are mean and nasty and all of that. So that's the word for today. I hope you guys have an awesome day, and we'll see you guys again tomorrow morning.